We live in a very intricate system that is mostly made up of water, magnets, and electricity. Welcome back to 5D Mystery School, and in this lecture, I'm just going to be talking about the uses of water, electricity, and magnetism. Now, I will admit that if you have not seen any of my previous lectures with this one, you might be a little lost. So, this is a water molecule. One thing to keep in mind when observing a water molecule is that the oxygen atom is more electronegative than the hydrogen atoms. So the hydrogen atoms are positively charged, but just partially due to the oxygen atom pulling the electrons from the hydrogen atoms, making the oxygen atom slightly negatively charged. Now, I want you to think of this same concept when you look at the black hole the sun, and the moon, and the Polaris star that is fixed right above the black hole sun. Now, you can say that the Polaris star and the black hole sun is like magnetically pulled like right above the black hole sun, okay? When viewing a megatron sacred geometry, you can view the top half of the megatron as like the same as the effect with the black sun, the sun and the moon, or a water molecule. And at the bottom, it is inverted, showing you what happens at the top is what happens at the bottom. Another way of saying this is as above, so below. The same with the 369 method, meaning that you can actually view the water molecule as a 369, and this is contributed to humans because humans are mostly made up of the water molecule. This is going to make more sense as we go through this. Now, just to be transparent, I didn't write this lecture down. This is all freestyle. I've been doing a lot of freestyles lately, so just stick with me here. This is like a download that I'm trying to make sure I get across in this lecture accurately, okay? So, from Science Direct, what is a magnetron? A magnetron is a high vacuum tube that converts direct current power into alternating current power, typically at microwave frequencies, by utilizing a constant magnetic field to modify the space charge distribution and current voltage relations. And just from another source, I believe this is ResearchGate, magnetrons. A magnetron is a high vacuum tube containing a cathode and an anode, the latter usually divided into two or more segments. A constant magnetic field modifies the space charge distribution and the current voltage relations. Many forms of magnetrons have been made in the past, and several kinds of operation have been employed. The type of tube that is now almost universally employed is the multi-cavity magnetron, generating traveling wave oscillations. From Britannica, magnetron, diode vacuum tube consisting of a cylindrical straight wire cathode and a coaxial anode, between which a DC direct current potential creates an electric field. A magnetic field is applied longitudinally by an external magnet. Connected to a resonant line, it can act as an oscillator. Magnetrons are capable of generating extremely high frequencies and also short bursts of very high power. They are an important source of power in radar systems and in microwave ovens. Now, if you have forgotten what a cathode and an anode is from my Primeval Waters lecture, I'll just do a quick review. Anode is the electrode where oxidation occurs. Cathode is the electrode where reduction occurs. Now, let's briefly go over reduction and oxidation. Oxidation and reduction are opposite processes that involve the transfer of electrons between species. Oxidation is the process of losing electrons. This can also be defined as an increase in oxidation number. So when you lose your electrons, you increase your oxidation, and a loss of hydrogen or gain of oxygen. Now, a reduction, on the other hand, is the process of gaining electrons. So when you gain electrons, you decrease your oxidation number, and a loss of oxygen or a gain of hydrogen. Some examples of oxidation include burning fuels, fireworks, and metals tarnishing. An example of reduction is rusting, which occurs when oxygen reacts with iron to form rust. Side note, deeper analyzation has to be done on oxygen and what it truly is. A chemical that causes another chemical to lose electrons is called an oxidizing agent, while a chemical that causes another chemical to gain electrons is called a reducing agent. So now that you are familiar with a cathode and an anode, then you know the inner workings of a magnetron. So, just as a review, when you have a magnetron, what you have is in the middle a direct current that's creating an electric field. And then longitudinally, you have a magnet that's creating a magnetic field. So, this magnetron is creating its own electromagnetic field. And if it's connected to a resonant line, it can act as an oscillator. Now, an electronic oscillator is an electronic circuit that produces an AC signal powered by a DC source. Oscillators are found in many electronic devices such as radio receivers, television sets, radio and television broadcast transmitters, computers, and so forth and so on. So, a magnetron can create its own electromagnetic field and it can act as an oscillator. I hope that you're staying with me. The most common linear oscillator in use is the crystal oscillator, in which the output frequency is controlled by a piezoelectric resonator consisting of a vibrating quartz crystal, like in computers. Crystal oscillators are ubiquitous in modern electronics, being the source for clock signal in computers and digital watches, as well as a source for signals generated in radio transmitters and receivers. This is really important, okay? The pineal gland contains small calcite crystals that exhibit piezoelectric properties, meaning that they can generate an electric charge when subjected to mechanical stress like vibrations or pressure changes. This is why researchers theorize that pineal gland might act as a biological transducer, potentially converting electromagnetic signals into neurochemical responses within the body. This is also the source of clairvoyance, psychic abilities, lightning inspiration, inventions, and such. All right, just wanted to show you that I was sourcing that from Britannica. From Sky News, Great Pyramid of Giza can focus pockets of energy in its chambers, scientists say. The study, published in the Journal of Applied Physics, says, in general, one may conclude that the pyramidal objects located on a substrate and supporting multiple resonances can significantly suppress the reflection of incident electromagnetic waves. The highlighted portion here says, in the Earth conditions, this could be used for controlling radio wave propagation and reflection, like what happens in our sky 24/7. The model was used to see how wave energy is scattered or absorbed by the pyramid, and group tested the interactions with waves of resonant length ranging from 200 meters to 600 meters. If the pyramid's ability to concentrate energy can be recreated on a nanoscale size, researchers say the same science could be used to create more efficient sensors in solar cells. So in a way, the pyramids themselves are forms of magnetrons. And in a way, you can use magnetrons to create a toroidal type of energy or force. Kind of looks like a donut or a bagel, like the bagel from Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, that film. Anyway, now you can read the definition here on Wikipedia for this toroidal inductor. I just wanted to show you a glimpse of the shape of it so that you can have in your mind how this can be used to create magnetic levitation that people call gravity. From Top Science, a toroidal magnetron. Side note, I promise you I'm getting to the synopsis, I'm getting to the meat of it here shortly. I just have to get through all the wordy stuff to kind of build up to the foundation. So most of y'all just usually end up skipping part one and going straight to part two, but if you're still here with me on part one, I appreciate it. So if you read the abstract, this is an idea of how magnetic levitation can work, a rearrangement of the geometry of cavity magnetron oscillators is proposed such that the magnetic field loops around the cathode, right, the center cathode, whereas the waves and electrons travel along it. So the cathode would be like this magnetron cathode. Look at the center of this magnetron. Do you get this reference? Star on the top of the tree representing Polaris, the lights the aurora borealis. So for the purposes of this lecture, let's just say that you had a magnetron in the center of Earth, okay? And Polaris is gridlocked to this magnetron. And let's say the sun and the moon were like the hydrogen atoms, and the black sun was like the oxygen atom. And the black sun was pulling electrons from the sun and the moon, right? And making it slightly negatively charged and making the sun and the moon slightly positively charged. And they are able to rotate using magnetic levitation. Polaris would be the 3 and the sun would be the 6, right? And the moon would be the 9, or inverted, as above so below. The black sun would be the 3, the moon would be the sun, or the 6, and the sun would be the 9. Okay, water vapor. It is the key component of the water cycle in climate and plays a significant role in weather and temperature. Heat transport. Water vapor moves heat from the tropics to the poles, and moist air moves heat more effectively than dry air. Now think about this. Water vapor is omnipresent, is in the air at all times, is in the ether, okay? Now, your awareness of humidity, like the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere is known as humidity. Your awareness of this is due to the heat, the appearance of the heat or the disappearance of the heat. When it gets hotter, then you start to feel all sticky and sweaty. Or like a humid day, you're aware of the water vapor that's in the air. And also, water traps heat radiated from the Earth's surface and re-emits it back to the surface, our reality. All right, from NIH. You can go find and read this if you'd like. However, I just like to point out this highlighted section. The results indicated that the magnetic field enhanced the evaporation of water under the same gravity conditions. So the magnetic field can cause evaporation to happen faster. Magnets affecting water. But isn't water diamagnetic? From the University of Minnesota. Abstract. Diamagnetic materials create magnetic fields that opposes an externally applied magnetic field. Water is a diamagnetic material. However, the interaction is extremely weak, and visually noticeable effects can only be obtained using powerful superconducting magnets. From Science Direct, that's a lengthy title, you can read it yourself. So this article is suggesting that the diamagnetism with water increases with temperature. Water will create its own magnetic field to repel the magnetic field. Now we're getting into the good stuff. The conversation. Magnetic fields can control heat and sound. In the 1930s, physicists started modeling atomic vibrations as particles. This is similar to the concept of light as both a wave and a particle we call a photon. Physicists call the sound wave particles phonons, derived from the Greek word for sound. This is why when you pick up the phone and call somebody, you can send them your sound waves. The more you know, ho. Today, physicists treat phonons as quasi-particles, having both wave and particle properties. Phonons carry both sound and heat. This is why sometimes when you talk to somebody, you can feel the heat of their, the words they carry. In metals, heat is carried primarily by the movement of electrons in the atoms. However, in all other materials, heat is carried almost exclusively by the phonons. I repeat, heat is carried almost exclusively by phonons, by sound particles, sound waves. So the mechanical, acoustic, and thermal properties of sound waves have long been established. Yet, before now, nobody ever imagined that sound waves might also have magnetic properties. I repeat, hold the phone, hold. I said, hold up, motherfucker. Hold the phone, I repeat. Yet, before now, nobody ever imagined that sound waves might also have magnetic properties. It's a beautiful day. Okay, magnetic levitation is a method by which an object is suspended with no support other than magnetic fields. Magnetic force is used to counteract the effects of the gravitational force or sound and other forces. From Northwestern, Sun's magnetic field originates surprisingly close to the surface. New finding addresses a 400-year-old mystery once explored by Galileo. For centuries, astronomers have studied the telltale signs of the sun's magnetic activity. Among them was Galileo, who made the first detailed observations of sunspots in 1612. Using early telescopes and even his naked eye, that damn Galileo. Galileo documented the shifting dark patches caused by the sun's ever changing magnetic field. Looks like Galileo never laid low. Some might say he was magnetic. From DARPA, underwater radio, anyone? Now, out of the whole article, I just want to point this out right here. Is that radio frequency signals hit veritable and literal walls when they encounter materials like water, soil, and stone, which can block or otherwise ruin those radio signals. This is why scuba divers rely on sign language in their radio dead zones inside tunnels and caves. You ever been lost in a thought and a download hits you and you're like, damn, Source really hit me with some potent shit this time. And then you go online and the shit's already online and you like, damn, you just dropping this idea off to everybody? Anyway, a sun controlled by a magnetron, but if this is your first time hearing it, a sun controlled by magnetron refers to a hypothetical concept where the output of a magnetron, a device that generates microwave, is used to manipulate or control the behavior of the sun. Most likely through the idea of a rising sun magnetron design, which allows for precise control of the microwave radiation emitted, potentially enabling targeted manipulation of solar activity. Now, it's highly theoretical, and it says it's not practical reality yet. AI. And according to ResearchGate, I really like the work that they've been doing. Prior simulation work using a 2D model of a rising sun magnetron showed that the use of 100% modulated current controlled the magnetron phase and allowed for dynamic phase control. So it's plausible. Here's a giant magnetron, and I believe that several megaliths were actual magnetrons. I was reading this book, The Ancient Stones Speak, and it led me to believe not only are the pyramids of Giza and several other pyramids that coincidentally are connected by ley lines, right, the Great Circle, that they are ways, these megaliths are ways of generating electricity, generating heat, generating levitation. And in a way, you could connect them to water and create a tool in which you have like precise cutting. Like you can cut through anything. Water is the most powerful thing in our reality. So, meaning you see this stone right here, that perfect straight line cut can be done using like a power washer connected to a giant magnetron. And it could be the same way that the Egyptians and other ancient civilizations were able to use, a tool, certain, like ambiguous tool to cut through these granite structures, to cut through these other stones and materials that were damn near diamond-like. And in a strange way, I believe that trees are connected to the system where they release oxygen in a way to the inhabitants of the system, and they have these anode and cathode like properties, which is why they are powered by the sun. Same thing for flowers for the smaller inhabitants like bees and ants and so forth and so on. And for the giants of the past, they had supposedly trees that touched the ceiling, the firmament, which is why you had bigger animals back then as well. Okay, so moving along, I briefly just want to touch on Seasons could be created using magnets, using the electromagnetic field, more specifically the magnetocaloric effect. The magnetocaloric effect is generally defined as the cooling or heating of magnetic materials with the variation of an externally applied magnetic field. So, this article goes on to state that you can use this magnetocaloric effect to cool and heat things when you have an external magnetic field that is applied. All right, so this part is really important. I need you all to pay attention. Stop chewing gum. All right, you got to talk on the phone, go in the hallway. Can magnets be used to create ice? To create heat, to create summer, winter, autumn, magnetic field. Magnetic refrigeration is a cooling technology based on the magnetocaloric effect. This technique can be used to attain extremely low temperatures as well as the ranges used in common refrigerators, meaning summer is a vibration, winter is a vibration, or the absence of. Summer is an increase of the vibration, winter is the opposite. So therefore, icebergs, ice ages can be created with magnets and magnetic refrigeration on a large scale. Now imagine, use your imagination, that let's say the ice wall, more specifically if you look at older maps like that were drawn up in the 1500s, you can see the magnetic ice or the ice wall. Now let's say that ice wall was on top of a magnetic, like a magnet, right? And that would be the external magnetic field. And then let's say if you had a magnetron in the center that where Polaris was grid-like, that would be the internal. And then you can use the connecting, the interplay with the magnets to create seasons. Also, moving on. Static electricity is an imbalance of electric charges within or on the surface of a material. The charge remains until it can move away by an electric current or electrical discharge. The word static is used to differentiate it from current electricity. I'm revving up here. Where an electric charge flows through an electrical conductor. A static electric charge can be created whenever two surfaces contact and or slide against each other and then separate. The effects of static electricity are familiar to most people because they can feel, hear, or even see sparks if the excess charge is neutralized when brought close to an electrical conductor. For example, a path to ground mean they were grounded. Like when you pull like a shirt out of a dryer and you can see those sparks coming out of the shirt because you're standing on like a grounded surface, so you are the grounding surface between the fabric and the air. I'll repeat, the effects of static electricity are familiar to most people because they can feel, hear, or even see sparks if the excess charge is neutralized when brought close to an electrical conductor or a region with excess charge of the opposite polarity. The familiar phenomena of a static shock, more specifically an electrostatic discharge, is caused by the neutralization of a charge. So this static charge, which if it's static, that means it's there, it's always present, right? And it's present because of water. But that's a whole nother, okay. You can harness this static electricity to create what we see as lights, as this phone, radio, like power itself, which is omnipresent. Because essentially that's what the sun is doing. Okay. Now, can magnets be used to control sound. Remember, magnetic fields can control heat and sound, this article. So using magnetic fields to control sound, you can create structures that are composed based on sound. And they would carry a similar print to show you the vibration that they are all on. Like if you look at a pine cone, a sunflower, DNA, tornadoes, your fingerprint, they're this way because of a frequency that everybody's being composed by. This dimension is composed by a certain frequency, and that frequency gives off a print, like a low oscillation, and then we carry the print of that oscillation, and then our DNA is also shaped to that same sound, which is being contained by the external magnetic field. And in between, you have radio waves that are created, and these radio waves is how thoughts go out, it's how communications go out. So when we see electricity that's being conducted in our reality, is the transfer of those electrons, like the water molecule. And your body is being held together by phonons. So you are in fact phony. And these electronic oscillations is how we experience our reality, especially with the triangle waves, right? Our cell phones, our computers, our radios, and some would even say our pineal glands, our thoughts, right? Because remember, consciousness is streamed. Consciousness, in a way, is an electronic oscillation. And another thing I want to leave you with is that these magnetic oscillations can leave you with something like the aurora borealis. From ResearchGate, cylindrical magnetron with multiple dynamic areas of toroidal plasma, which would be the waves that you always see when you are in the Arctic Circle. And it would be the location of the 4 head springs where all water is sourced. I'm going to leave you with 2 more things. One, let's reimagine Metatron's cube now. Let's look at Metatron's cube face down. Face down. Imagine the middle circle here being Polaris. And the circles around Polaris is the rotation of the sun and the moon. And the exterior circles would be like the ring, the ice wall. And then the inner hexagonal shape would be like the force, like the magnetron force that's holding this middle circle in place, gridlocked. So it'd be like looking down on looking down on this action taking place. And then the second thing, let me show you a visual representation of what I just said. So using Polaris as a center point, north, east, west, south, you can angle cooling, heat. So before I let you go, magnetic levitation times magnetic refrigeration would give you the creation of like winter, which is why the colder seasons precede summer. So that's all for today. I can keep going, but we're just gonna cut there for this lecture. But did you get this reference? The Christmas tree? Did you? Let me know. If you like this video, be sure to like, share, comment, even follow. I'll see you all next time. Take care. Peace. When you see this glyph, when you see this symbol here, what you are seeing is the direction of the wind. Okay, like you look up here to the far right, that is the north, east, west, and the south. Okay? Another way that I want you to think of this is 90-degree angles. Matter of fact, when you look at a cross is four 90-degree angles. But a cross is really a square. If you know, you know. And as an astrologer, I can tell you that when I'm looking at a natal chart, a square is a 90-degree aspect. Okay, so the cross, a square, four of these, and it tells you the direction of the wind centered above the center, above Polaris. Matter of fact, think about pole, either extremity of an axis of a sphere, especially of the Earth's axis. And that axis rotates. It rotates 360 degrees. Okay? Because 360 degrees is 90 times 4. It's like the entirety of the. That's what logos like this symbolize. Some people will call it the birth of the world, right? Like the primordial womb, the order out of chaos, out of darkness, which is why when you are birthed at a hospital, and on every hospital you have the caduceus and you have the rod of Asclepius. And what this symbolizes is that pole at the Arctic. Arc, the apparent path described above and below the horizon by a celestial body, such as the sun. That's why the pole is in the Arctic, at the horizon, where you can notice this rotation. Another way that you can look at the rod of Asclepius and the caduceus is that you have the Draco constellation that is right above the pole. So the Draco constellation is this is symbolizing the North Pole locationally. Another way that you can view it is like the myth told by the Egyptians when Ra had to go to the underworld to fight the giant snake. And other civilizations, like the ancient Israelite civilizations, they also have Sheol, where you have this behemoth, this leviathan, this monster at the bottom. And just for reference, you can see here, you have the Draco constellation literally right next to Polaris. And you know, you got the Little Dipper in between. You got the Big Dipper on the other side. That's a whole nother story, but I'm going to stay focused. So this is this. And when you look on ancient maps, you see right in the middle of the Fort Head Springs, you have a black mountain there, the Rupes Negras. This is the Corona iron ore. This is one of the largest iron ore deposits in the world. So it's a mountain-like structure that is composed of iron, and this iron is magnetic. Matter of fact, it's magnetite. This is Iron Mountain in California. So this Rupes Negras, it really takes it out of the realm of theoretical and it demystifies it. So legend says that there was a magnetic mountain in the center of the Four Head Springs. Side note, these Four Head Springs is said to be the origin of all water in the world. Like all water is sourced from and returns to these Four Head Springs. And this could be another reason why all compasses point north to that magnetic core. And since it is magnetic, it can be the reason why Polaris has such a gridlock position and is the center of that rotation, the axis. I should have mentioned that you are reminded of this rotation every single day if you look at a clock or you look at a watch. But either way you look at it, if you do, I know I've said this a million times, but listen, you go get this lesson today. If you look at a watch, you see the pole connects the turning points, the dials, that tells you what time it is. The same mechanism on a compass, a pole in the center. You have a cross and a compass, and you have a cross and a watch. Listen, I didn't know if I was going to put this side note in here, but here we are, we're here. When you go to a strip club, if you do, it's not my cup of tea, but maybe it's yours. Next time you are watching, Becky go down a pole, her putting her matrix on the pole, sliding down the pole is symbolic. It's the primordial womb. 4 points, 3 bodies gives you 12. 12, 3, 6, 9. I believe that might go over some heads. All right, let me find a stopping point in case y'all didn't bring any flashlights. So when you go to church, or when you view churches, a lot of them have bells. I mean, they also have cymatics on the window, but we know the reason for that. If you paid attention right at the beginning, you can see the cymatics show you your thumbprint. I know you don't want me to re-explain the whole organ sound healing thing with the churches. You've seen that lecture, okay? But church, bells, cross, 490-degree angles. Just making sure you're still with me here. From BBC metals, three metals, iron, cobalt, and nickel, are magnetic. They are sonorous, which means they make a ringing sound when hit. That's why bells are made from metal. More specifically, iron. Now you ask yourself why they remove those bells. But what I want to get to, what I want to drive home here is the pole, the core, iron, magnetite, sound. What do we say about sound? Sound can create seasons, heat, ice. And a mountain made of iron and magnetite mountain would do perfect in the Arctic. And the reason why I keep showing you this natal chart is because the foundation is harmonics. And you can use these harmonics to build a body. Sorry, I know I said I wasn't going to go deep. I should end here. Now, keeping everything in mind that was mentioned, especially how magnets can be used in the mechanism of sending and receiving radio signals. Birth is a signal that is sent. Your brain houses magnetite crystals, the same magnetite that would make up the rupus nigra. Now, the body is built with the harmonics of the luminaries above. When you are born, a snapshot of the position of the luminaries at the millisecond that you are born is taken, and the energy, the harmonics that is being lent to your body, that is being built off of phonons. You get a percentage of Mars, you get a percentage of Mercury, you get a percentage of Neptune, all together with the energy that is being used from the harmonics, from the sound that is the sound that is like the magnetic field that is holding in the sound that is composing your body, that is lending in energy from these radio signals from Jupiter, from Saturn. That is what the body is made of. And these luminaries, they use such things as copper, manganese, magnesium, iron, which is why the body is composed of iron, calcium, manganese, magnesium. Anyway, I'm just going to stop right there before it sounds like we're in church. So with that being said, that is going to conclude my last lecture of 2024, the commercialized new year. If you want to see more videos like this, you want to see the algorithm just go dumb with this video and push it out to people, make sure you like, share, and follow. See you all next time. Peace.
5D Mystery School.